The cantina on Vega Prime was a patchwork of grime, neon lights, and the mingling scents of alien spices and machine oil. It thrived at the fringes of civilization, a sanctuary for spacers, smugglers, and fugitives looking to drown their secrets in dark liquor. Behind the polished yet scarred bar stood Liam Hale, a man as worn as the synthwood countertop beneath his steady hands. His silver-threaded hair and weathered face suggested an easy-going bartender, content to listen to stories, without asking questions. Most saw only that. A man pouring drinks and pretending the galaxy didn't exist beyond the cantina's reinforced walls. But Liam had his own secrets, ones that could get him killed. He moved with the efficiency of someone who had once danced, with danger for a living. Every bottle he flipped, every glass he set down was calculated, seamless. To the average patron, he was just another fixture of the cantina, blending in with the haze of synth smoke and flickering hollow screens. That anonymity was Liam's armor, his shield against a galaxy that rarely forgave past sins. The patrons tonight were rowdier than usual, freighter crews celebrating a lucrative haul, mercenaries boasting about their latest contracts. Liam barely registered their noise. His focus drifted toward a pair of figures seated near the shadowy corner booth, where dim lighting barely touched their faces. They had arrived separately, but carried the same air of predatory stillness. Liam's instincts, honed by decades in special operations, whispered a warning. He'd learned long ago that danger often walked softly and watched from dark corners. The woman was tall and lean, her metallic cybernetic arm glinting faintly under the cantina's sporadic lighting. Her companion was bulkier, a slab of muscle, wrapped in combat gear that didn't bother pretending to be civilian. They sipped their drinks without speaking, eyes flickering over the room like scanners. Galactic Syndicate assassins, Liam thought grimly. He had hoped the Syndicate would forget about him, that time and distance would bury his past involvement in dismantling one of their lucrative smuggling operations. But the galaxy had a long memory, and the Syndicate even longer. He knew what this was, a cleanup operation. They wanted to erase every loose thread, including the man who knew too much about their roots and partners. Liam wiped down the bar with deliberate calm, masking the tension tightening his chest. Panic was a luxury he couldn't afford. The assassins hadn't made their move yet, which meant they were still assessing the situation. That gave him a sliver of time to plan. He glanced toward the cantina's entrance, noting the steady stream of customers. Too many civilians. Collateral damage was inevitable if a firefight broke out. That left stealth or subterfuge as his best options. The door hissed open, and a new figure entered, a spacer in a grease-streaked jumpsuit, oblivious to the brewing danger. Liam seized the opportunity. "Hey, Jax!" Liam called out, forcing a casual tone. "You still looking for that shipment of Pyron crystals?" Jax blinked, confused but eager. "Yeah, got a buyer lined up. Why?" "Check the back storage. Room. Might have something for you." The spacer grinned and headed toward the rear door. Liam followed, his footsteps steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. As soon as they were out of sight, Liam pressed a hidden panel on the wall, activating a silent alarm linked to an encrypted channel. The signal was simple but effective. A distress call sent to one person alone, Cole. Liam's son was many things: fierce, unyielding, and dangerously efficient. As a Navy SEAL stationed on a nearby space carrier, Cole had a reputation that made even seasoned soldiers pause. Liam had hoped his son would never have to cross paths with the shadows that still haunted his own past. But tonight, survival took precedence over sentiment. Returning to the bar, Liam resumed his post, eyes flicking toward the assassins. The woman with the cybernetic arm leaned forward, her lips moving in a hushed conversation with her partner. They were getting ready. Liam's heart thudded in his chest, but his expression remained neutral. He poured another drink, the motion smooth and practiced. His mind, however, raced with possibilities. He had no weapons within immediate reach, least none that anyone else could see. The cantina's music shifted, a low thrum that vibrated through the floor. The tempo mirrored the rising tension in the room. Liam counted the beats, measuring time in heartbeats and split-second decisions. The moment shattered when the woman stood abruptly, her cybernetic arm unfurling into a gleaming blade. Patrons gasped, chairs scraping against the floor as people instinctively moved away from the threat. "Liam Hale," she said, her voice metallic and cold. "The Syndicate sends its regards." Liam's lips curved into a faint smile, devoid of warmth. "I figured as much." The assassin lunged, but Liam was already moving. Years of training took over, muscle memory guiding his actions. He ducked beneath the sweeping blade, grabbing a metal serving tray from the bar and slamming it into her side. The impact jarred her, but she recovered quickly, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Her partner charged, fists raised like sledgehammers. Liam sidestepped the first blow, using the momentum to shove the bulkier man into a table. Glass shattered, and shouts erupted as patrons scrambled for cover. Liam's breath came in controlled bursts, his mind calculating angles and escape routes. He couldn't hold them off indefinitely, not without backup, but if he could buy just a little more time. The rear entrance burst open with a hiss, drawing every eye in the room. A shadow loomed in the doorway, backlit by the flickering lights. Liam exhaled sharply, relief mingling with grim determination. Cole had arrived. The cantina was unusually quiet that evening, the usual hum of conversation replaced by an uneasy stillness. Liam Hale, wiping down the counter with a practiced hand, noticed it first. The shift in the air, the subtle tension that hinted at approaching danger. He had lived through enough battles to recognize when trouble was about to walk through the door. And trouble did walk in. Two figures entered the dimly lit cantina with predatory grace. The woman led the way, her sharp features illuminated by the flicker of faulty neon signs. Her left arm was a sleek cybernetic implant gleaming under the muted light. Behind her, a hulking brute of a man with a scar running down his jaw followed like a looming shadow. The weapons strapped to their bodies were a clear message. They weren't here for drinks. Liam kept his face neutral, masking the tension building in his chest. He'd been off the Syndicate's radar for years, or so he thought. But seeing these assassins, there was no denying the truth. They had found him. The woman's eyes locked onto Liam with a cold, calculating gleam. Her lips curled into a smile devoid of warmth. "Well, well," she said, her voice smooth and mocking. "Liam Hale, didn't think bartending suited your style." Liam leaned casually against the counter, forcing himself to appear unfazed. "Pays the bills. Better than working for scumbags like you," the brute snarled, but the woman raised a hand to silence him. "We're not here for small talk," she said, her tone hardening. "You know why we're here." Liam's heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. "Can't say I do." The woman's smile faded. "The Syndicate doesn't forget, Hale, and neither do we." Before Liam could respond, she moved faster than seemed possible, her cybernetic arm shifting into a serrated blade. The brute drew a plasma rifle in one fluid motion. Instinct took over. Liam dove behind the bar as a burst of plasma fire shattered. Bottles and scorched the wooden countertop. Shards of glass rained down around him, but he barely noticed. Years of combat training kicked in as he drew his own blaster, the weapon humming to life in his grip. The cantina erupted into chaos. Patrons screamed and scrambled for cover, overturning tables in their desperation to escape the firefight. The assassins pressed forward, their attacks relentless. Liam fired blindly over the counter, forcing the woman and her partner to take cover. Sweat slicked his brow as he calculated his next move. The odds weren't in his favor. Too highly. Trained killers against one aging ex-soldier. But he'd survived worse. A sudden burst of gunfire from the entrance made Liam's heart skip a beat. For a moment he thought reinforcements had arrived for the assassins, but then he saw the familiar silhouette moving with lethal precision through the smoke-filled room. Cole. His son moved like a shadow, his Navy SEAL training evident in every step. Dressed in tactical gear, Cole fired controlled bursts from his rifle, each shot finding its mark. The brute roared in pain as a round struck his shoulder, forcing him to stumble back. "Dad!" Cole's voice cut through the chaos. "You good?" "Been better," Liam grunted, popping up to take another shot at the woman. She deflected it with her blade, her expression twisted in fury. Cole advanced, his movements fluid and efficient. He vaulted over a table, landing in a crouch before firing again. The brute went down hard, smoke rising from the charred wound. "On his chest," the woman hissed, her red eyes glowing with rage. "You'll pay for that," she snarled. "Get in line," Cole said coldly. She charged, blade gleaming as she aimed for Cole's throat. But he was faster. Dropping low, he swept her legs out from under her. She hit the ground with a thud, but before Cole could finish her off, she activated a hidden device on her wrist. A blinding flash filled the room, forcing Liam to shield his eyes. When the light faded, the woman was gone, vanished into the smoke and chaos. Silence fell over the cantina, broken only by the crackle of damaged electronics and the groans of injured patrons. Cole stood slowly, his rifle still raised. "She'll be back," he said grimly. Liam nodded, his jaw tight. "Yeah, but next time, we'll be ready." Father and son stood side by side amidst the wreckage, the bond between them stronger than ever. The syndicate had made their move, but they had underestimated the resolve of the Hales, and that was a mistake they wouldn't survive. The cantina was eerily silent in the aftermath of the firefight, broken only by the hiss of smoldering debris and the faint hum of malfunctioning electronics. Foam still clung to the walls, dripping in uneven rivulets to the slick floor. Liam. Hale stood over the unconscious assassin, his blaster still in hand. His breath came hard and fast, muscles aching from the fight. Across from him, Cole Hale surveyed the scene with the cold detachment of a man accustomed to violence. In the harsh light of the ruined cantina, Cole looked every inch the warrior. His black tactical suit was reinforced with advanced armor plating, worn from countless missions. A compact rifle rested against his shoulder, the matte finish dulled by soot and grime. His face, hard-edged and angular, bore a few faint scars, reminders of battles fought and survived. There was no mistaking the predatory focus in his eyes. "You good?" Cole asked, voice low but steady. Liam nodded, though the adrenaline still coursing through his veins made his limbs tremble. "I'll live." Cole's gaze swept the room, assessing every angle, every possible threat. "These two the only ones?" "For now," Liam said grimly. "But if the syndicate sent them, more will come." Cole knelt beside the unconscious woman, his gloved fingers brushing against the edge of her cybernetic arm. "High-grade tech, custom mods. They didn't send amateurs." "They never do," Liam muttered, holstering his blaster. "Figured I was off their radar, but I guess old ghosts have a way of catching up." Cole's lips thinned, but he said nothing. He knew better than most how the past had a tendency to haunt those who tried to leave it behind. Rising to his full height, Cole shifted seamlessly into mission mode. "We need to get you out of here. Secure location, minimal exposure. The syndicate won't stop until they've tied off every loose end." Liam snorted. "You think I don't know that? I was playing this game when you were still learning to tie your boots. Then you know staying here isn't an option." Cole shot back. The old defiance sparked in Liam's chest, but he swallowed it down. This wasn't the time for pride. Cole was right, and Liam knew it. They moved quickly, navigating the wreckage of the cantina as smoke continued to drift through the air. Liam's boots slipped slightly on the foam-slick floor, but Cole moved with effortless precision, his steps silent despite the chaos around them. At the rear of the cantina, a concealed door blended seamlessly into the wall. Liam tapped a hidden panel, and the door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Beyond it lay a narrow passageway, lit by faint emergency lights, a smuggler's route built into the structure during the early days when cargo inspections were more of a suggestion than a mandate. "Tunnel runs about half a click to the outskirts of town," Liam said, gesturing toward the dim corridor. "Gets us clear of surveillance." Cole nodded, already mapping out the next steps in his head. "We'll need transport once we're out. Any trusted contacts?" "One or two," Liam said, though doubt lingered in his voice. Trust was a currency spent sparingly on Vega Prime. They slipped into the passageway, the door sealing shut behind them. The oppressive heat of the cantina gave way to the cool, damp air of the tunnel. The faint hum of distant machinery echoed through the narrow space, accompanied by the steady drip of condensation. As they walked, Cole finally broke the heavy silence. "I didn't expect your call." Liam glanced at his son, noting the rigid set of his shoulders. "Wasn't planning on making it." "Yeah, well, glad you did." There was a weight to those words, an unspoken acknowledgement of the fractures that had grown between them over the years. Liam had walked away from war, seeking peace in the shadows of Vega Prime. Cole, on the other hand, had embraced the life Liam had tried to leave behind, rising to become one of the Navy's most formidable operatives. "You've made a name for yourself," Liam said after a beat. "Navy SEALs aren't exactly known for keeping things low-key." Cole's expression didn't waver. "Somebody's got to do the dirty work." Liam grunted. "Guess it runs in the family." They reached a junction where the tunnel split in two directions. Cole held up a hand, motioning for Liam to stay back. He scanned the area with a small device strapped to his wrist, its display flickering with data. "Clear," Cole said after a moment, his voice clipped. Liam stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "You always this paranoid?" "Comes with the job." The air grew colder as they pressed on, the faint sound of distant voices filtering through the tunnel walls. Liam felt the familiar prickle of danger at the base of his skull. "They're already looking for us," he said grimly. "Let 'em," Cole said, his tone ice-cold. "They won't find anything but regret." The sheer confidence in Cole's voice was almost unsettling, but Liam couldn't deny the sense of reassurance it brought. His son was a force to be reckoned with, unyielding, precise, and utterly relentless. They emerged from the tunnel into a desolate stretch of land on the outskirts of town. The sky above was a swirl of stars and faint nebulae, the air crisp and biting. A hover transport sat hidden beneath a rocky overhang, its engines humming softly. Cole gestured toward the vehicle. "Get in. We've got a lot of ground to cover." Liam hesitated for just a moment, taking in the stark landscape and the weight of what lay ahead. The syndicate wasn't going to back down, and neither were they. "Ready when you are," Liam said, climbing into the transport. Cole slid into the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. As the transport lifted off the ground, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that they were hurtling toward a war neither of them had fully prepared for. But if the syndicate wanted a fight, they were going to get one. And with Cole by his side, Liam liked their chances. The air was thick with smoke, the acrid scent of burnt metal and ozone clinging to every surface. Sparks rained from shattered overhead lights, casting flickering shadows across the ruined cantina. Liam Hale tightened his grip on his blaster, the weight familiar and comforting despite the chaos surrounding him. Beside him, Cole stood like a living embodiment of war, silent, focused, his Navy SEAL instincts on full display. His tactical gear was scuffed, smoke-streaked, but he moved with the same lethal grace that had dismantled countless enemies before. "They're regrouping," Cole muttered, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the perimeter. Liam nodded grimly. "They always do." A low, mechanical whine filled the air, followed by the heavy thud of boots on the cantina's scorched floor. Through the haze emerged more syndicate operatives, their faces obscured by tactical helmets and advanced targeting visors. Leading them was the cybernetic woman, her red eyes glowing like embers in the smoke. "You should have stayed down, Hale," she sneered, her blade arm gleaming under the flickering lights. "Now I'll make sure there's nothing left to bury." Liam smirked despite the tension twisting in his gut. "Talk's cheap, sweetheart," she snarled, signaling her men forward. Plasma rifles hummed to life, their lethal barrels trained on father and son. Cole's voice was steady. "Cole, I'll take the left. You cover me." "Got it," Liam said without hesitation. The first shot rang out, a bright streak of plasma cutting through the smoke. Cole moved like lightning, ducking and weaving between blasts with deadly precision. His rifle spat controlled bursts, each shot finding its mark. Syndicate operatives crumpled under the assault, their armor useless against Cole's surgical aim. Liam held his ground, laying down suppressing fire to keep the enemies disoriented. His years of experience in combat served him well. He anticipated their movements, firing precisely where they least expected. The cantina became a battlefield, the once vibrant space reduced to a war zone of shattered tables and scorched walls. Explosions rocked the foundation, but Liam and Cole stood firm, their combined efforts turning the tide. The cybernetic woman roared in frustration, her blade slicing through the air as she charged toward Liam. He fired, but she deflected the shot effortlessly, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Before she could strike, Cole intercepted her, his combat knife flashing as it met her blade. Sparks flew as metal clashed against metal. They moved in a deadly dance, each strike and counterstrike faster than the last. Liam's heart pounded as he watched the brutal exchange. Cole was a force of nature, but the woman was relentless, her cybernetic enhancements giving her an edge, in raw power. "Not bad, soldier," she hissed, her voice laced with venom. "But you're out of your league." Cole's expression didn't waver. "You talk too much." With a sudden, explosive move, he drove his shoulder into her chest, knocking her off balance. She stumbled, and in that split second, Cole seized the advantage. His knife found its mark, slicing through exposed circuitry on her neck. Sparks erupted from the wound as she let out a distorted scream, collapsing to her knees. Her red eyes flickered, dimming as she struggled to stay upright. "You think this is over?" she gasped, blood mingling with coolant as it dripped onto the floor. Cole wiped his blade clean with practiced indifference. "It is for you." He turned to Liam, who was already moving to secure the area. The remaining syndicate operatives lay dead or incapacitated, the threat neutralized. The cantina was eerily silent now, the chaos giving way to a heavy stillness. "You good?" Liam asked, his voice rough from exertion. Cole nodded, though. His eyes remained hard. "Yeah, you?" "Still breathing," Liam said with a wry smile. They stood amidst the wreckage, the weight of their victory settling over them. The syndicate had been dealt a crushing blow, but Liam knew this wasn't the end. The syndicate never forgot, and they never forgave. "More will come," Cole said quietly, as if reading his father's thoughts. "Let 'em," Liam replied, his voice filled with steely resolve. "We'll be ready." Cole's lips quirked into a faint smile. "Damn right we will." Father and son exchanged a nod, their bond forged even stronger by the fire they had just survived. Together, they had faced death and emerged victorious. As the smoke began to clear and the first rays of dawn broke through the shattered windows, Liam felt a rare sense of peace. They weren't just survivors, they were fighters. And as long as they stood side by side, no force in the galaxy could take them down.